Hello again, everyone. Hope you're keeping well. It's just me checking in on day 20 of the Seeds for the Future program. So now it's coming up to 3 weeks. Tomorrow will be 3 weeks up the program, leaving just a week left. And once again, it's been a good few days since my last video. It's been really, really technical because we're doing a lot of training, as I mentioned previously. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. But instead, I'm going to talk about a topic that a lot of people have been asking me about, which is Chinese food. And I've got to say, the whole process of learning about Chinese food and getting used to it is something that's been really, really difficult. In fact, I think I'd go as far as saying I'm still not totally used to it. And the thing I miss most about home is just the food. It's just a totally different experience over here. I guess I should start with chopsticks, which is the biggest change. In most restaurants that you go to, you don't get given a knife and fork. The only time we really get that is when we're at the hotel, and instead everywhere else you go using chopsticks. And I haven't really had much use of chopsticks before I came to China, so it's really difficult for me to get used to. And I'm not really sure how they do it or how they manage so effortlessly, because I was there trying to eat, rice, which is a staple dish that you get with every meal, or like noodles, and I was really struggling at the beginning. But it's something that you just pick up and you get used to because you have to get used to. And now I can say I'm fairly decent, especially with the noodles, which I'm quite impressed about because that was really, really difficult. But yeah, I'm glad I got to learn a new skill, so to speak. In regards to the food itself, totally different ball game. Nothing like any of the Chinese food I eat back home, which I don't eat much of anyway. And just the taste, the smells, how it's presented to you, it's all so different. And yeah, not what I'm used to at all. I've had loads of different types of food, different types of cuisines. Been in Beijing and Shenzhen, and the guides that we've had and the company have taken us to loads of different restaurants. We've got to experience all different kinds of Chinese food. As you know, China's a massive country, so in every different province there's different sorts of things. So you get different varieties of rice, the way chicken, lamb, beef is cooked, also noodles and dumplings. They've all been great, but not something that I've fully been able to accept. And ironically, the best meals I've had are the ones that kind of remind me most of home. For example, we went to a restaurant 2 days ago, which was just really Western food. So we had just plain pasta, and we had pizza and chips. And I've got to say, it was the best meal ever. When you've been eating noodles and rice for the past 20 days, whatever, it's just really refreshing to get something that reminds you of home. But yeah, it's something I think even the others have talked about. It's either you enjoy the food, you really enjoy it, or you're just not comfortable with it. And I'm just in that camp. But I'm glad that I've got to experience a new culture, a new way of eating. What I really like about Chinese culture and the Chinese way of eating in the restaurants compared to back home is that the food is served first on a circular table, so everyone's sat in a round table, and then there's another circular plate on the table which rotates. So loads of dishes are put onto the table, and everyone rotates and everyone shares the food, which is quite nice. So rather than in the UK where we all kind of have our individual dishes and portions, and there's not really much sharing going on, it's totally different in Chinese culture and Chinese food, and I think it embodies this idea of togetherness and collectivism, which is a quite prominent theme not only through food but in other areas of Chinese life as well. I've tried some interesting things that I've never seen before back home, like for example hot pot, which is where in the middle of the table you have these soups and these broths are boiling up, and you're given the raw meats that you have to kind of pick up and put inside and cook yourself and eat, which is quite interesting. Really good fun. Carrying those raw meat pieces with chopsticks isn't easy at all. But it's good fun, good laugh, and I got to experience that. I also got to experience other cuisines that aren't Chinese whilst I'm here, like Korean barbecue, which is another really fun experience, which basically, again, you get the raw meat, but you get a mini grill on your table, and you have to cook the meat yourself. Absolutely delicious. It was really good, and I hope that I get the chance to try some of that back home. That's kind of a bit of an overview of Chinese food. I think because the spices are so different and the way it's cooked, it is really tricky to get used to on your stomach as well. And everyone on the program so far has suffered to some degree. But I guess that's just what you have to accept when you're in a different country that has a different way of doing things. One interesting feature, in most restaurants that we've been to, is that in each restaurant on the wall they'll have a TV with a camera pointing into the kitchen room, so you can see exactly how the food's being cooked. Back home it's something that whilst we're waiting for the food, or if we see something a bit dodgy, we're always speculating about oh, I wonder how this is being cooked or what's going on. But in China you can see exactly how it is, and they even have a rating system of smiley faces to determine the cleanliness of the restaurants. and how good they're doing. Thankfully, most of the restaurants we've been to have all been, the top rating, but there was one which was quite low with a sad face, which is quite worrying. But I'm standing here now doing this video, and I'm not ill or anything, so happy days. Must have gone well. Yeah, I think that's just a general overview of Chinese food. Most of the time, I've tried some really interesting things, but I can't remember the names of them because they're in Chinese, so I can't really report anything in particular. I think one final thing I'd like to add is that one stereotype people have of back home is that there's loads of weird and wacky things that Chinese people eat. And I got to say, to some degree, I have seen that. I went to a night market when I was in Beijing and I saw some crazy things. There was like cockroaches and scorpions on sticks live that you could eat or being fried. There was like starfish, octopus, all sorts of crazy things. Someone even said that they saw snake being cooked and sold in one of the stores, but I didn't get to see that myself. So if you're wondering about some of the weird things that Chinese people eat, I've got to say from my own experiences, a lot of them are true. Not to say that everyone eats them because you don't get that in the restaurant, so to speak, but you do get it as street food to try out. So yeah, that's a general overview of Chinese food. If you have any questions about anything else I've said, yeah, I'll be happy to answer them. And yeah, hopefully over the next few days when I conclude the trip, I'll try and post some more general videos about Chinese culture and my experiences as a whole. Yeah, I look forward to it in the next few days. I'll be going to Hong Kong tomorrow night until Sunday. So hopefully I'll have some interesting experiences to report from then. But till then, thanks for listening.